Hi, this is Beck, and welcome to Pattern Making Hell Part 2, featuring Rady and this trash bag. So, what we have here is the pattern thingy that I made, including belts. And what we need is a mock-up to make sure it actually fits. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to cut all these pieces out. And remember that none of these pieces have seam allowance, so I'm going to add that when I make the mock-up with the trash bag. Because trash bags act like fabric, but aren't my expensive fabric. So,
creative on a budget.
Yeah, I mean, this is made out of scrap schoolwork paper. So what we're going to do is I'm going to snap my fingers, and when the video comes back on, this will be cut out. We're back, and the things are cut out. I adjusted the neck band measurement, so instead of this wide, it's now this wide. Because after cutting it out, it was way too thick. Now I'm going to show you how to lay things out on the fabric, aka this trash bag, for cutting out. Now, normally, these arrows that I drew on here, that's the grain line, that's like, you do like straight up and down for most things. So that the fabric doesn't stretch in inappropriate ways when you do the thing, and also so the patterns will align properly, hopefully. There are some things like men's dress ties and whatever that you cut on the bodice, which is diagonally. That uses a lot of fabric, by the way. The next piece, I already showed you this to you. This piece A. Piece B is the bodice front. This has this top seam roll attached to the neckband, and then covers food. This bottom edge is where the belt attaches. The belt's going to be made out of the white fabric. This is the sides and to the back of the bodice. It covers the other half of the boob. See, this is the princess seam right here, and wraps around the body. This is the side seam, where the side seam would normally be, but I decided against there being a side seam because that seems silly. There was no real reason to have them separated because there's no dart and weirdness like this. There's no like curvy bullshit on that piece. So, like I said in the previous video, I added the very small belt piece to the next belt piece, but then I realized that the side belt piece also aligned pretty well, so the only seams in this entire thing is going to be in the back where the zipper would be, and where the belt attaches, where the choker part attaches, and also the belt front is going to be cut on a fold, is going to attach at the same area that the bodice does. The only reason I couldn't make this one piece was because of this little curve right here because of the dart. And this tiny part is just in case for when I'm altering the skirt pattern slightly, just so there's not like a gap or a hiked up front of the skirt for absolutely no reason. I'm keeping this as reference, basically. It's not an actual pattern piece. This isn't nearly all of my pins. This is...
I know.
Oh look! This is from when I like to do bench 1 or 2 sewing needles. I don't remember what kind it was. I was probably sewing glue stress, actually. Like 6 layers of fabric, and my needle just decided no more.
Wasn't that when you were doing like the Hella tool?
No, it wasn't the Hella tool. It was the Hella 5 layers of fabric, plus the outer layer of fabric has this like intricately beaded on, glued on bead shit on it. So anything that says fold, put that side on a fold. So I have to line it up to the edge. And then typically you pin within your seam allowances so you don't mess up fabric and whatnot, but these patterns have no seam allowances. So and also this is trash bag, so I'm going to pin as I please. Don't do more than like 2 layers of fabric. Unless it's like tulle, then you can probably get away with it. Tulle, by the way, for people who don't know, is that like really puffy stuff in like
Prom dresses. It's the stuff that makes your prom dress poofy.
Well, that's sometimes tulle, sometimes just netting. The really fine netting, like in ballerina skirts.
Like tutus?
Yeah, and there's tutu skirts you see all in stores now because that's a popular style, I guess. So, you see that everything is pinned down now. It's not going to move. I left a bunch of space in between them because these pattern pieces don't have seam allowance, which is the thing that you need to be able to sew things and have them still fit. Now I forgot when pinning to add seam allowance to this one, so I'm just gonna like tape some because this is just a trash bag mock-up after I cut it out. But what we're gonna do is we're going to measure out seam allowance for everything, and we're gonna scratch it out with that old machine sewing needle that isn't fit for much else other than this. And also my handy dandy measuring tape. Now we're going to take a Sharpie, and the standard seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. So now that I've marked it with my Sharpie, I can very easily tell where it is. There we go.
There we go.
So let's start. After I do about probably half of one of these pieces, I'm going to snap my fingers again, and then it'll all be done. Normally I use white trash bags, so you can just use regular Sharpies on that, but I needed it to be a bit thicker. If these fit, they'll be your actual pattern piece, and you don't have to make another one. And now that I've gotten like one side of one of these done, I'm gonna snap my fingers. And I'll probably be in different clothes because I'll probably pick this up tomorrow, to be honest. Anyway, and we're back like a day later. Look at how that is like scratched into the surface of this trash bag. They're cutting lines. If you were using a white trash bag, which would actually show color, you should probably just use a Sharpie, because that works way better than trying to scratch at it with a broken sewing machine needle. After you have them all scratched or drawn out with the seam allowance, cut them out along the line that you just drew. I'm going to grab my handy dandy sewing scissors and begin to cut the pieces out along the line. Now that you see how I'm very easily just cutting these things out, I'm going to snap my fingers and then it's going to be done. Look, they're all cut out. And now, to a very quick, just take all the pins out thing. Make sure to remember which piece is which. But it should be pretty easy since all these pieces are really differently shaped. And look, the ones that I cut out on a fold, twice the length. Be careful not to stab yourself with pins, because that hurts. Also be careful not to fling your pins where they may fall on the floor. That may hurt someone else. That's the front bodice piece, by the way. Look. It's just the teardroppy thing. Okay, the next step, once I get all these pins out, is I'm going to, like very loosely with a hand needle and a brightly colored thread, sew these together the way they're supposed to be sewn, and that way we'll be able to see if it fits properly and be able to make any adjustments before we get to the actual fabric. Move the front of the belt, including seam allowance, that's pretty big. These are the sides of the bodice. It goes over the other half of the and there's the other part of the belt. The other part of the trash bag is put over there, in case we need it again. We're probably going to need to get more mock-up stuff. Because, you know, the first mock-up tends not to be perfect. What we're going to need to do is take our pins, take our pieces, remember which pieces go where, and I'm going to start at the bodice front, and we're going to just pin these together. Some people pin up and down, some people pin inwards or outwards. That really depends on whether you're doing hand sewing or machine sewing and how well your sewing machine can take up to hitting pins. When I was working on an industrial machine, we would always just pin inward at a 90-degree angle to how you were sewing, because the machine could take it. You could just fabric through, it'd all be sewn, and then you take out the pins later. That way you don't have your fabric moving while you're sewing, but my machine doesn't always like me doing that, and that's probably actually how this got bent. Pins. This one has a curvy bit, and you just kind of force the fabric or trash bag to do what it's supposed to. Because of the way the pattern is designed, it's supposed to have this little curvy bit to make it better for the boobs. I've made a version of that pattern before, and that made you make a little squiggly bit in the second, on the side bodice piece, and that way it would do the thing and form properly. And I've made a version of that several times, and so it hasn't failed me yet, so I'm just gonna go with it. Only like twice have I actually made it an actual sweetheart. A lot of times I'll skip the making it a sweetheart, which is it makes a heart around the boobs. What I'll normally do is make it just a straight neckline, because that's the style I was going for, and in this case I have the neck connecty thing. So you can see it's starting to form properly. This isn't going to go around my boobs, but it's a decent analog for what it's supposed to do. And then we're going to sew all this together after I pin this all together. So snap my fingers, it'll all be pinned. Well, that took a while. Now it no longer looks like just pieces of trash bag. Now it looks like some weird kinky BDSM thing. But it's pinned together now at all the seams. The belt's even pinned on, and curves are an absolute bitch to pin together, by the way. Also, I forgot to add a little bit of seam allowance here, but if that actually becomes a problem, I'll add it on. Anyway, screw sewing it together. I'm just gonna place it on braiding and see if it fits.
Yeah, it's
No, I'm gonna have the pins on the outside. Okay. Hold on. You look like you're wearing a thing.
Yes, I do.
Still gonna have to add a little more length to this probably, but for now, it'll do.
Oh, do pink. That'll do.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
You know it's love when you think of the exact same means.
Okay, does the belt feel okay? Is it sufficiently cupping boobs? Careful not to stab yourself. But it fits in the back. There'll be enough room for me to add a zipper when it needs the zipper. But twirly around you. And see, the actual bodice ends near the back. And so it's an open back thing, just held on by the neck thing. It's appropriately modest. It's not going to show too much. Let's see if there's any things. It lays really well on your chest. So I drafted the dang slopper well. Also called a block. As you can see, the mock-up was a success. I don't need to edit anything, which is really great. That's things that's happened. We're completely from scratch pattern has not needed editing. Yay! I'll leave this together for now until I get the skirt all straightened out. And what I have to do for the skirt is I'm gonna work on the base of the skirt first, and then do the high-low. But I'm going to need my pins back, and this is using a lot of the pins I have available to me right now, so I'm actually going to sew this up. So I got all of this sewn together with bright red thread. You can see it here. So I can use my pins for other things now. And so I can keep this off to the side. I can put that to the side now. Have use of my pins now, and I can work on the skirt. I'm going to keep the paper patterns, especially for the bodice parts, because I'm going to need to actually draft a second pattern to be able to have a ruched, gathered little overlay with the chiffon. And so that thing that I made was the base pattern for the lining and the gold fabric. The same fabric, but I'm going to pull them apart so that I'll be able to finish it off nicer, especially when adding the chiffon. And as for the belt is going to be cut out of, this is only one of the belt pieces, but the belt's going to be cut out of the white fabric for the actual outside of the belt, but also just the lining part of the gold fabric, because I actually have some of my gold fabric has only the lining there, no gold part there. And I'm going to use the lining of that to hand stitch that to the inside so that I can hide the seams really nicely. And I'll show you that when I get to that.